Good afternoon and welcome to the May 2021 edition of Let's Talk Safety with the Philadelphia Fire Department and Office of Emergency Management. I'm your host, Adam Teal, the Fire Commissioner and Emergency Management Director for the City of Philadelphia. We have a great show for you planned today. We're so happy to have our listeners joining us here on WURD Radio. Of course, you can check that out over the airwaves and also at onWURD. Through all the social media channels. So great to have so many listeners with us today. Like everybody else during this ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we're making some changes in how we do the show. So usually we're in the studio with all of our guests right there with us or occasionally calling in. Today we're doing it virtually and hopefully the technology will hold with us. We've had some great shows using this format. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and start by checking to see if our guests have joined us. We have some great guests today. This show, while we want to update you on all things Philadelphia Fire Department and Emergency Management, our guests today are to help us start honoring EMS Week, Emergency Medical Services Week. Of course, the Philadelphia Fire Department is one of the busiest emergency medical services agencies in the entire nation. We have the busiest ambulance in the entire nation, in all of the USA. The busiest ambulance is not in New York, not in Chicago, not in LA, but right here in Philadelphia, 2 years running. We want to talk about that a little bit and, of course, start to celebrate and honor those emergency medical services providers who round the clock, 800 to 1,000 times today, are answering those calls for service, those calls for help, your calls. So let me see who we have with us so far on the phone. Lieutenant Carey, are you there?
I am here, sir.
All right, great. And I'll remind all my guests to make sure you talk loud into those devices because we're going through a lot of different channels here to put this show together. Lieutenant, thank you for joining us. How about Leanna Cruz Soto, one of our newest advanced EMTs? Leanna, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, thank you. And William Logan, one of our paramedics, are you there?
I'm here, sir.
Great. And paramedic James Lee, did you make it on with us? James, do we have you? No, we don't have James yet. Okay, well, we'll get started. Again, you heard we have some great guests. I did want to mention over the past month, we've been very busy, as we always are here in the city of Philadelphia. As I mentioned, 800 to 1,000 incidents a day, every day, fires, emergency medical services incidents, hazardous materials incidents, technical rescues. It's been a very busy month since our last show. Our dedicated members have rescued people from the water, from under trains. We had an apartment fire a few weeks ago where we rescued about a dozen people over ladders alongside our colleagues from the police department. And unfortunately and tragically, just yesterday, we had our 16th fatal fire of the year so far. And despite the best efforts of our members, again, you hear they make incredible rescues 24/7, 365. Sometimes we're not able to rescue folks who are involved in fires. And again, it's been a tragic year so far in terms of fire deaths. We've had hundreds of folks displaced from their homes despite all of those rescues and the great firefighting efforts. So we want to remind everybody at the outset that fire is everyone's fight. Please make sure after the show, listen to the show, but after the show, go right out into your home and check to make sure that you have a working smoke alarm on every floor of your home. And if you don't, we're not out there yet, but we're getting ready to restart our fire prevention activities in a COVID-safe manner. So go ahead and call 311 and get yourself added to the list. And at some point as we work through that backlog, we'll be out to install a smoke alarm in your home. I should mention, tomorrow is Mother's Day, and smoke alarms make great gifts for our moms. So think about that. But listen to the show first, and then you can go out and check them. Go buy one if you need it, or go buy one and makes a great gift for your mom or your aunt or your grandmother or all of the mothers in our life. So we really, again, want to focus today on EMS Week. Now, this is early. We're a couple weeks from EMS Week, although we wanted to devote our May show to our incredibly dedicated emergency medical services providers. As some of you have heard over the years, our longtime listeners, I started out almost 30 years ago in fire and EMS as an emergency medical technician. That really was my initial attraction to public service, was as a basic emergency medical technician or a basic EMT. And over the years, I became a paramedic, also became a firefighter, and ultimately, 5 years ago, my journey led me here to Philadelphia. It's been an incredible 5 years through pandemics, fires, daily disasters, other disasters of all types. I have to tell you, in all my travels around the world, I have never seen a more dedicated group of emergency medical services providers than we have here in the city of Philadelphia. Incredibly competent, incredibly compassionate. They are the busiest and the best in our business. And as you heard me say, don't take my word for it. If you look at those national rankings, busiest ambulance in the nation, again, right here in Philadelphia. Now, we would hope that we wouldn't be quite that busy. Of course, over the past years, we've added a lot of capacity into our emergency medical services system. We've added 10 ambulances into our system. So during the day, we have 60 ambulances and paramedic units out there on the street serving you, taking care of our residents, businesses, and visitors. 24 hours a day, we have a minimum of 50 of those units. And remember as well that we have a lot of dedicated EMS providers on our fire apparatus. Frequently asked question, I called 911 because I have a medical emergency or I've had a traumatic injury. Why did you send a fire truck? Well, the reason is all of our fire apparatus, all of those engines and ladders and heavy rescues also have at least one firefighter emergency medical technician on board, or firefighter EMT. And they can start providing that patient care immediately. Time is everything in our business, and they will do everything they can to take care of folks until one of our medic units arrives with EMTs, paramedics, and now we're very fortunate. We just graduated, just promoted our first class of advanced EMTs, and that's going to let us get even more advanced life support care out there in every neighborhood of our city. And we're very pleased to have one of those newest advanced EMTs join us here on the show. But let me start with Lieutenant Pat Carey. Pat, why don't you introduce yourself and kind of how long you've spent in the fire department and what your role is right now.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you great.
Okay, great. Fantastic. So I am a lieutenant paramedic with the Recruitment Unit. Right now we try to get as many paramedics to join us, and it's an uphill battle, but we do actually do pretty well trying to get people in and convince them that this is the best job in the world. So I got going on 21 years with the Philadelphia Fire Department. I got promoted back in 2016 to lieutenant to various spots through privacy office to ES10, ES9, ES8, and now I chose to take the role in recruitment because basically I can talk to anybody. So I can actually, if I could talk anybody into anything, especially trying to become a paramedic. So a lot of our roles that we do are we start with the first responders and not so much being attached to a lot of the fire classes, but in recruitment we have these young ladies and men that join the fire explorers, and we teach them to be EMR, then progression into EMT, and then directional toward firefighting and paramedics if that's what they choose. We also incorporate making sure that they choose to give them encouragement for college and then so on. So we got a positive support group, even Commissioner and Captain Palmer and everybody's supportive of getting these young ladies and gentlemen so we can actually have homegrown people that live in the city of Philadelphia to join this great department.
Great. Thank you, Lieutenant Carey. And we definitely want to make sure that we circle back and talk about our community EMT programs and our new facility at 7800 Ogons, which is going to really be a hub for us to doing neighborhood-focused EMS training programs and CPR classes. We're very excited about that. Of course, that facility launched as a vaccination clinic, one of our vaccination clinics. We're still doing vaccinations out of that facility. Of course, a lot of places you get vaccinated. We want to make sure we mention that at the end as well. But let's move on with our introductions, and let's go to advanced EMT. Liana Cruz Soto. Liana, talk a little bit about your career so far and talk about this transition that you just made from EMT, fire service EMT, to advanced EMT as part of our very first class to do that in the Philadelphia Fire Department.
Hello, everybody. My name is Advanced EMT Cruz Soto. So I've been with the fire department for 6 years. I've been in EMT for 11, now newly promoted Advanced EMT. I love it. It has changed my aspect on how I view people. It has basically helped me understand how to treat certain things. This is a little nerve-wracking, I'm sorry.
You're doing great. You sound great.
Being a newly advanced fire service EMT, I just started my first shift this week, and I have a great paramedic that's helping me along with just learning the aspects of doing new IVs and helping him with doing nub treatment, so that way I can help the citizens of Philadelphia that are extremely sick if an ALS medic unit is just taking a little longer than normal because we are so busy. I do plan on becoming a nurse, so this is a big stepping stone for me in learning different diseases and the pathophysiology on how to deal with those diseases. So I'm excited to continue working for the fire department for a little longer and see where my career takes me.
Great. Well, thank you. And that, of course, is very appropriate as well, because I think, we just finished National Nurses Week, and nurses are a critical part of our continuum of care and emergency medical services. We have a number of nurses who actually work in and for the Philadelphia Fire Department. So, Leanna, let's make sure we talk about that, because who knows, you might be able to go to nursing school and still be part of our, of course, you'll always be part of our PFD family, but that's great that you're doing that and really continuing your medical education that way. So proud of you and your colleagues for, taking the risk and stepping out there and balancing work, family, and life in a pandemic and completing this advanced EMT program. So we want to talk a little bit more about that journey. So happy to have you on the show. Talking about our dedicated paramedics, we should be joined by William Logan, who's one of our paramedics. Paramedic Logan, are you there?
Yes, sir. My name is William
Great. So just
Logan.
introduce yourself briefly.
Okay. My name is William Logan. I'm a fire service paramedic for the Philadelphia Fire Department. I joined the department in 2015. My first year on the department, I was in a pool. I'm currently assigned to Engine 54, Medic 41. I've been there for the past 4 years. Engine 54 is located at 63rd and Lancaster.
Great, thank you. And we want to hear a little bit more about your journey later, but appreciate that initial introduction. You all heard me mention here in Philadelphia, busiest ambulance in the country, 2 years running, and we have one of the paramedics assigned to that unit, Fire Service Paramedic James Lee. So James, introduce yourself to our listeners. Oh, we might not have James yet. All right. Well, we'll hope that we're able to get him on the line. Let's circle back to Lieutenant Carey. Pat, you talked about our recruiting efforts and our continued emphasis. There's a national paramedic shortage. Becoming a paramedic it's a challenging curriculum. It takes a lot of time. It's it's a college level these are college level programs, 2 or 4 year school programs, and everywhere in the nation there's a shortage of paramedics, and certainly in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and in our region as well. And I say that simply because I think it really puts a point on the fact that paramedics and EMTs and advanced EMTs who choose to work here in the Philadelphia Fire Department are eyes wide open, so dedicated to our mission, so dedicated to taking care of our citizens here in Philadelphia, the 1.6 million of us who live, work, and play in the city of Philadelphia. All these folks could go work somewhere else, probably make more money, or if not make more money, at least maybe not work as hard. There are other fire departments in the country. In fact, most fire departments in the country, all the major city fire departments operate their emergency medical services systems as well. Few are as busy as the Philadelphia Fire Department, where our medic units are what we call close to 100% utilized, or sometimes even more, according to all of our industry metrics. So these folks are really choosing to work in a very high volume work environment because they know that our citizens need that level of care, and they're really here. I can't say enough. And Lieutenant Carey and his team's job in our recruitment unit is to bring more paramedics and advanced life support providers like our advanced EMTs to grow our own with our community EMT programs. We've done a couple of those, and that's really kind of where it all starts with EMT. So Lieutenant Carey, maybe explain, if we have a listener who's interested in an EMS career, what would be a way to start?
Well, I think that the big push would be to make it extremely transparent and let them know what they're expecting as far as the steps of EMR, EMT, and then in the paramedicine, and even possibly in the nursing or whatever medical field they choose to go into. But if their pathway is geared for paramedicine or being a paramedic, we actually have anybody can call the recruitment unit. They can ask for me personally. I get phone calls on my cell phone, work phone, word of mouth, whatever. Any time of day, any time of night, they can call me. I'm usually up because I'm just finishing my school now, but I'm usually up till about 2 or 3 in the morning finishing papers that I have to do. But I think when they first call, the hard part right now is because everything's online and there's not a lot of schools that are technically open. So the ones that are, like Jefferson and Good Fellowship and that bunch, or wherever they live, if they're not sure where they're actually heading in or what school to actually get a hold of, we're not privy, or we don't make any money off what school I send you to. It's the option is get you to the school, make you do the direction that you want to go into, make sure it's successful, and if we have to, we can walk them through it, contact the school, see if they're actually hiring or bringing on new students, and then direct them to those areas so they can absorb as much as they can in a short amount of time. We also let them know that there is study habits involved when anybody who's going through even the recent, like I went through paramedic school back in 1994 when I graduated, and it's a little bit different than it is now, especially National Registry. So there's a lot of components with that, and then just kind of preparing them, and then still have that handout. If they're in paramedic school, they can always call us up at any point in time. And the whole idea of that transparency is if anybody in the, especially myself and Colleen Andrzejak and Tina McKee, who actually helped me also, they're paramedics. We actually do handouts for people to call us at any point in time if they run into roadblocks.
Great, thank you, Lieutenant Carey. And what is that number? And of course, folks can visit our website at phila.gov/fire, or follow us at Philly Fire Department, at PFD Recruit. You can follow me at Thiel Adam, THIEL Adam, and of course follow the WURD Radio at onWURD. So what is that number that you mentioned, though, Lieutenant Carey? I mean, what's the recruitment number? We don't know. We want to give your cell phone number out on air, but what is the recruitment number?
Well, right now they just put our new phone lines in there. I believe it's 685-3979. I believe it is. If anybody, I'll tell you right now, if anybody wants to call me, they can call me on my cell until I get my work phone. But if you want, I'll read it out at the end if they like, and they can specifically ask for me. I think being personalization with somebody and having somebody they can talk to instead of just some person that answers that line, it makes it more personal. It makes it and when they join the department, and then it becomes a great family relationship, just like the commissioner said.
Great. Thank you, Lieutenant Carey. So there, you heard it. Our recruiter is incredibly dedicated to this work and to all of our Philadelphia Fire Department family members, past, present, and future. We have our first caller, Diane from South Philly, on line 4. Diane, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioner. I'm just so, I'm so thankful for you and your team coming on every second Saturday of the month. I learned so much, and I just want to thank you. A good leader has great followers, so I just want to thank you and your team for all the work that you do for this city. And I want to tell you that I have a 3-year-old grandson, and he loves firefighters. So I bought him a big fire truck, and it had fire bands on it, making noise, how children stuff. And every time he ride with his mother, he'll tell his mother, fire truck. And then he'll say, ambulance, ambulance. So he's fascinated about the fire department. So, when everything calms down, hopefully the fire station will open up for visitors again for the children. But I just want to thank you, Commissioner, all the great work that your team does for this city.
Diane, thank you so much, and happy Mother's Day to you and your family. We hope you have a safe, happy, and healthy one, and we'll want to make sure we get your grandson an application. It's never too early to start recruiting.
Yeah, I have a son that he's on the list, so he's fascinated by the fire department, too. He took the test, I think 2 years ago, I believe, but he passed the test, so he's waiting to get his name called. So hopefully, he'll get called soon.
Yeah, well, we certainly hope so, and again, appreciate all your kind words, and please do be safe.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thanks, Diane. Take care now. Leanna, talk a little bit about the different levels of emergency medical services provider. You were an EMT, a basic emergency medical technician, which is kind of how we all start out, and then you just became an advanced EMT. You talked about moving up to becoming a nurse. Talk about that and kind of some of the synergies that you see there, and also I know you're well aware of what it would take to then become a paramedic, and how what are the different skills that our providers can do at those different levels?
So being an EMT, you're really right at the basic level. It's basically basic life support, oxygen, tourniquet for controlled bleeding, and hopefully some oral glucose if someone is having a diabetic emergency and they're still alert and oriented a little bit. Pretty much being an advanced EMT at this level now, I'm able to help with asthma attacks. I'm able to help with acute coronary syndrome, someone's having possible chest pain and it might be leading to a heart attack. I can help out with giving some aspirin and nitroglycerin, where before I was only able to assist them. Now, if I see the symptoms, signs and symptoms, I can give it. I'm able to transmit EKGs to hospitals. If someone is in a hypoglycemic emergency, which is low blood sugar, and they are unresponsive, I can help administer glucagon. For anaphylaxis, I can get the ball rolling with that. I can give some epinephrine. I can give some Benadryl, med treatment if needed. And I can also be called to cardiac arrest. I can help us start doing life-saving measures with medications and, with the medic alongside of me, and basically helping all together sum that up and hopefully get Rock and transport him and take him to the hospital.
Great, thank you. That's a great introduction. Let's talk a little bit. Let's have paramedic Logan talk a little bit about what he does as a paramedic, and then Leanna, you had a great point there in talking about teamwork. There's nothing that anybody in our department does by themselves. So really, when you see that when that ambulance arrives, there are 2 dedicated providers on there who work as a team. So paramedic Logan, talk a little bit about what paramedics do and how they work as a team with EMTs and advanced EMTs to make sure that all of our patients get the absolute best compassionate care that they can?
Oh, okay. So being a paramedic, I respond to a lot of critical calls, people at their worst moment, people having heart attacks, diabetic shocks, traumatic events, cardiac arrest, pregnancies, a lot of pediatric calls. My job is to stabilize these patients and get them to the hospital. With doing this, I work with other paramedics, EMTs, and firefighters. Sometimes with our cardiac arrest calls, firefighters, they arrive on scene first. They start BLS, and I come in, and we work together to obtain ROS on the patient, stabilize that patient, and get them to the hospital. Also, sometimes we work with EMTs who are very helpful, just as well as working with a paramedic. They're very knowledgeable. They help us. They help set up everything we need. Sometimes they know what we need before we even ask. Now we're going to have the opportunity to work with advanced EMTs who can do a lot more, like get IVs and, make up epi, push epi to help us out. So it's very rewarding. The most rewarding thing is walking into a house with a lifeless body, and you perform high-performance CPR. You get return of spontaneous circulation, and the patient is now showing good neural signs. They're moving extremities. They're blinking their eyes. They're following some command. You transfer them to the hospital, and then you follow up on that patient just to find out that they walked out of the hospital. That is like one of the most rewarding things.
Great, thank you for explaining that. And I think you made another really important point. You know, I've had folks say, why do you send for something like a cardiac arrest, a high acuity emergency medical services? And said, why do you have an ambulance with 2 people and a fire apparatus with 4 or 5 people? And that's because, as you mentioned, we're delivering the same type of care that you would get in a hospital, but without all the benefits of being in a hospital. So when you think, of course, everybody has seen on television when somebody's rolled into an emergency room and they're in cardiac arrest, immediately a whole team of at least a dozen or more nurses and doctors and ER techs descend on that person to take care of them. We essentially do those same things in the field, in people's homes, out on the street, in the backs of vehicles. Sometimes, we had one of our medics who's also technical rescue trained talk about this a couple months ago, hanging upside down in a trench or off a building. So it really does take, there are a lot of different things that have to happen simultaneously to give someone a chance at that ROSC, that return of spontaneous circulation, and quite literally bringing people back to life. And again, it's really a team effort. Everybody in the fire department is part of our EMS system, our emergency medical services system, as well as our hospital partners, the nurses, doctors, techs, and all the other people who make up that, what we call the chain of survival here in the city of Philadelphia. Lieutenant Carey, talk a little bit about your journey and what brought you to EMS. I mean, what was it, with all the different things that you could have done as a career, what made you choose emergency medical services?
Well, I was actually I was in college, and what kind of triggered it, I was doing pre-med through Holy Family College and moving on from that point. But it took one time that my mom got really sick, and Medic 17 came to the house. They took her to the hospital. I got a chance to go to the ER, and I watched everybody doing what they were doing, and it took me to a different pathway. So that was kind of like you know what, this is kind of cool. I'd like to do this. So while I was finishing school, I was actually going through EMT and paramedic school at the same time. And after that, kind of never looked back at that point. But once I graduated paramedic school, I did work private a couple places, and didn't want to kind of commit to really anywhere at that point, because most men are young and dumb. Anyway, it took once the fire department applications came up, I applied and then jumped on board, and it's been a fantastic ride. So it's been fantastic.
Great, thank you. And Leanna, same question. I mean, obviously, a lot of different things you could do. We're really excited about your future career and nursing. What brought you to EMS in the first place?
To be honest, it was a friend. I was looking for work at the time, and they told me you might be interested in becoming an EMT. And they told me what school to apply to, so I did. And 3 months later, I was a state-certified EMT. I worked private for 2 years and became a stay-at-home mom. And while I was looking for work again as an EMT, the Philadelphia Fire Department came along, and I never looked back. So it's actually very rewarding. I love working for the Philly Fire. It's probably the greatest job in the world to see different things that you've never thought you'd be able to see.
That's great. Thank you. And happy Mother's Day to you as well.
Thank you.
William, same question. You have an associate's degree in mechanical engineering. You're a paramedic. A lot of folks might think, well, how does that happen? So what brought you to the fire department and paramedicine and EMS?
Yeah, my story's a little funny. In high school, we had different tracks. So in high school, I did this thing with, it's called like Health Academy. You go to hospitals, you volunteer, you shadow a nurse, and you see what their typical day is like. In high school, I was kind of like undecided. I always wanted to do engineering, but then I wanted to do nursing too. So I decided engineering. So I went to school, got a degree in mechanical engineering. I worked for an architectural company where we provided blueprints for banks, and we did like high-end stuff for like Lord & Taylor. While working for the architectural program, we had like a little depression. I think it was back in like 2007 or 2008. So I got laid off. When I got laid off, I thought again about maybe I should do something for nursing. But also I thought about I was just in the office every day inside of four walls. So I started researching paramedic. In the process, I got called back to the architectural firm. I worked for them. And one day my superior came to me and told me that they were relocating the office to Pittsburgh. So I got laid off again. So at that moment, I said, all right, you know what? I'm maybe look into nursing or revisit the idea of becoming a paramedic. So I think I went to Allstate the first time and got a lot of information. I followed up, attended Allstate, got my EMT first, got my paramedic. After that, I worked in a private at Lifestar at Keystone for maybe like 2 years. Then I finally got the email I was waiting for, join the Philadelphia Fire Department. So I was a part of FSP 32, and I graduated, and it is the most rewarding thing. I hated being inside of four walls. I feel like I got a lot of freedom, and it's a very rewarding job.
Great, thank you. And for our listeners, there's, it's never too late to choose this rewarding career. A lot of different pathways can ultimately lead to emergency medical services, taking care of folks 24/7, 365, to the Philadelphia Fire Department. And Lieutenant Carey, I know you're an instructor for, in addition to working in our recruiting unit, you've instructed a lot of our past, firefighter EMT classes, teach a lot of emergency medical services. I had one of our paramedics say to me the other day, and again, having been a paramedic in other places personally, there were certainly things that I learned about that I never had to do. I just never had the opportunity. Some of the more, the really advanced or kind of, esoteric skills. And what this paramedic was saying to me is, everything that you learn in a paramedic curriculum or an EMT curriculum or advanced EMT curriculum, if you come to the Philadelphia Fire Department, you're going to do that. And you're going to do that more than once. You're going to do that in your first year. So talk a little bit about the range of things that our folks see and how do you prepare them? How do you train them to deal with all those different injuries and medical incidents and all the different medications that they can give and all the different skills that they can provide. Leanna mentioned some of those. So what is the training like to have somebody who's ready to serve our citizens across Philadelphia?
Well, I know teaching within the academy, doing the fire classes, I think the first one I told was the 175. And I believe we're up to either 200 or 199. So in all those classes, I think a lot of it that we bring to the table, the paramedic staff that we do the EMS training with, we basically, tell, like, we teach the curriculum to the T. It allows us to actually refresh our skills as we're training and doing those lectures in the classroom. And with all the background from other providers, other EMS provider paramedics that actually are instructors come up to the academy, they give their life experience to these guys. Because you got to remember, a lot of the cadets that come through these academy doors they've either had no direction, or maybe they wanted to be a fireman, or just like, FSP Logan said, like he was doing something else and then decided to try this. Like, there's a lot of, so when they come to the department, there is quite a jump in culture. There's a discipline is probably the key component to all that is teaching them to learn how the department, to be respected, number one, and to have ultimate integrity in everything that we do, whether you're treating patients, doing fires, doing EMS, and things of that nature. When it comes to the skills, those proficiencies are done at the end, and it's pretty much drilled into them that this is the way they should be doing, to put them backboards, collars, just preparing them. Because a lot of people, I think the one lady calls her son or grandson wants to be a firefighter, and he's always seen fire trucks. And it's great to see that. And even when I was growing up, I saw fire trucks, and that's what I wanted to do. It wasn't only until then, when I got in the department, that it was one of those, like, wow, this is a lot of stuff. And as long as you have those right people in place and implanted to teach, it can become a beginning, a new beginning, or a new enlightenment for those people to join the department. I know with recruitment, we do the EMR students, which are all these kids, and they're very impressive. They come from all walks of life, and the beginning phases of this whole teaching program for EMR is you have kids that may not even had a chance, and now they have a chance, and then we can directional. So I think getting whether they're kids or whether new adults that come to that academy, and then be very clear and precise on what their job duties would be, and taking care of patients and all that stuff's great, saving a life, and like when you do a cardiac arrest patient and you go check up on them and you find out that they walked out of the hospital, it's no bigger smile on your face, because you've actually, through your training through the academy and through the EMR, you actually have a chance to change the path of someone who may not make it, makes it, and then you were the difference. So being the difference, having the integrity, the bravery to do all those skills, and to come into the academy or that directional path is in a way, the best way is very heroic to any of those students that want to come in and make a path change in life and join us. Heroic is the best way to say it.
Thank you for that description. I think it really, paints a picture for our listeners of, all the things that our members do and what they really, sign up for, and that, the courage up front there. And one of the things we also know is of the many incidents to which our members are exposed, anything you can possibly imagine. I mean, sometimes, unfortunately and tragically, terrible things. Leanna, talk a little bit about some of the training that we provide for our members and some of the services around behavioral health. That's something we're always trying to do more. We recognize the exposure that our folks have to trauma. So talk a little bit about some of the services that we provide and some of the training that you've received to help, manage that stress that comes along with, taking care of folks on their worst days?
A lot of it comes through, you got to give your patient or the person you're went to go see a lot of emotional support. Sometimes their worst day is falling down on them, and it may not be abdominal pain, it may not be chest pain, it may not be difficulty breathing. It's just they need someone there for them. The Philadelphia Fire Department has given us multitudes of training in speaking with our patients, giving them, advice on how to deal with their problems and trying to seek better care in a hospital versus the one they keep going to. We try to tell them what hospital is best for them, what providers they can see. So a lot of mental, emotional support is probably the best way to deal with our patients. Some of them come with us, just they need a place to stay, and they don't know where to go, what shelters to visit. And, I work in Center City, so I see a lot of shelters, women's shelters, men's shelters, and I guide them to there. I tell them they got to be in by 8 o'clock, and if you go in, if you have your medical clearances, they'll accept you. They'll give you a plate to eat. They give you a warm blanket during cold blue season, and it just helps them know that someone is on their side and that someone is willing to help them versus not help them.
Great, thank you. I actually had somebody when I first got here. We were kind of talking about all of the different things our members do, and one of our medic units was called late at night and went to a home. When they arrived at the home, the real, the issue, a young person was with their grandmother, and they didn't have enough to eat. It was just, there was a delayed, mom was working. She hadn't gotten home yet. So, kind of an apropos story for Mother's Day. I asked our medics, well, what did you do? They said, well, we went down to the store and we bought food and we brought food back. It was just a matter of fact. This is what we do. So these are the kinds of things that the dedicated women and men of the Philadelphia Fire Department are doing in every neighborhood of our city, 24/7, 365. As I said, I couldn't be more honored to work with this great group of folks. At the same time, we know that some of what they see and some of what they do, it can be a very stressful job. I think every year when the list of stressful jobs comes out, being an emergency medical services provider is always on that list. And I think being a big city emergency medical services provider is always high on that list in terms of stress. Paramedic Logan, how do you deal with the stress of the job when what do you do on your days off? What do you do during your work shifts? Our medics and EMTs and advanced EMTs are so busy, they frequently don't have time to eat during their shift. So it really is a difficult work environment, and so proud of them for how they hold up. And William, what are some of the things that you do personally to help deal with the stress of the job?
Well, the first thing I do, I got a great partner. He's very great. He doesn't let nothing bother him. So me and him talk a lot after calls. If it's like a stressful call, we'll talk to each other about it. Other than that, it's a lot of other members that I can go to, senior members or members that were in my FSP Academy class. I can also talk to my wife, my mother. And a resource that we have that I haven't used yet, I haven't felt the need to use it yet, but I will use it, and I'm very thankful that it's there, is the Employee Assistance Program, EAP. So if I ever needed it, I would reach out to them. I also try to, hang out with my kids, do things with my kids, like take them to the park, come home. If I had a really, really bad day, read a story to my daughter, play with my son, things like that, things that will let me, or that will help me forget about my day.
Yeah, great advice there, and more emphasis. Our listeners, I know you're hearing this over and over, the importance of teamwork and partnership and all the things that our members do, working together to perform our mission, which is serving all of the residents, businesses, and visitors throughout the city of Philadelphia. Lieutenant Carey, we're very excited about the possibilities at 7800 Ogons. 2 years ago, we kind of we had an idea, and it's taken a couple of years to execute that. Great partnership with Councilmember Sherelle Parker, Mount Airy Church of God in Christ, just an incredible set of partners at 7800 Ogons. Talk about some of the plans we have. You mentioned our Explorers program. One of the things that caused me to really start looking for this facility was we had to turn Explorers away 1 year, and I know I think we got 300 applications for the Explorers program. I'm hoping we can, having a dedicated facility, we can have more Explorers, more young people in these programs. Big part of that program is getting that emergency medical responder, that EMR certification. Of course, we've had a couple of community EMT classes, one in concert with the 1199C organization here in the city, one with the West Philadelphia Skills Initiative. Very successful programs. You were involved in those too. I think we did the second one entirely during COVID. Talk about some of our plans to really make that 7800 Ogons facility a hub for community EMT training, CPR, because we really do, and you said it at the outset, we really want to make sure that we provide opportunities like this to Philadelphia residents to get that first training, to take those first steps, to become EMTs, whether working with us or working with one of the 50-odd non-municipal ambulance companies, or becoming an ER tech, maybe taking that and becoming a nurse or a doctor. So talk about some of our plans for that facility.
So you brought up the West Philadelphia Skills Initiative and 1199C. I think when I joined recruitment, I actually interviewed with Captain Ortiz, and she's fantastic. She's basically the leader, the mother of all these EMR kids that come through. And they do a fantastic job along with Candy and Lieutenant Graves and everybody else that's attached to that. When we started the WIPC program, or the West Philadelphia Skills Initiative, Captain Ortiz and myself were the administrators to that, and we had paramedic Andrzejak and paramedic McKee who were with me. We actually ran that program, and with a lot of uncertainty of what direction that was going to take us. Out of that program, we struggled through a lot, but what ended up happening is I'm almost 100% positive, it was almost 100% that actually tested, and out of that, those groups, I think we ended with 16 that graduated, and I believe one kind of didn't follow through, but the 15 that did became EMTs, and they're working throughout the system. We have one of them that actually just graduated as a firefighter out of the last class. So he's actually, his name Andy, he's actually doing a great, he was one of our STAR students. But all the other ones that actually went through that program, we did find employment for people who didn't have employment, which was one. The 1199C was the other challenging one. We had to build a platform for virtual. So we did the virtual one, and we did EMP, we did some hands-on. It was kind of back and forth right in the midst of all that COVID. But we persevered and we attacked that. And learning from those programs, we actually had, we have 100%, I believe, that are graduated out of that to become EMTs, and we have one more that will be testing that will actually complete that whole class. So it was successful. Learning process from that is now we take that virtual, and we were doing the EMR. So now with the EMR that's going on, it'll actually, once we get and we're settled in, and we'll be able to do the hands-on component to those classes, and then have young lives changed. The second part of that would be is the new facility. It's always nice to have somewhere where I can actually open the door with the key and call it my home. So with that, everybody did a fantastic job. The church, the department, the facility looks fantastic. And everybody, I believe that whole, where we going to be, is now everybody has a nest where we're actually sitting and doing. The opportunities for the area for citizens to come there, we got plans for not only EMR, We're trying to, if possible, with funding and things of that nature, to get an EMT program, maybe future, so hopefully we could teach our own paramedic school there, but that's in the future. But the main component is if we can get small programs such as like CPR, first aid, a little bit of awareness of those sections where people, if they have questions, the citizens, anybody, the neighbors around it, everybody can come for any direction. They know that once the facility is we're up and going, they'll have somewhere where if they had to call somebody or they had to come to somebody, the door is an open door policy. They can come in, knock, talk to us, and we can set up those programs. Captain Ortiz and Chief Wilson are the leaders of that. They're doing fantastic. Everybody has a component specialty in the place with EMS and paramedics, where Captain Ortiz is on top with the firefighters and EMR. But even though everybody has their own little component of what they do, we all know each other's job and we all act as one. Like I think the FSP Logan said, they talked about team. You definitely need 100%. You need the team and everybody that's on the recruitment team itself. If you take one of those pieces of the puzzle out of that, you can't make a complete puzzle. And the group I work with, 100%, hands down, absolutely fantastic. And it's probably one of the best departments I've worked for in my entire career.
Great. Thank you, Lieutenant Carey. So we have we just have about 90 seconds left. Paramedic Logan, one thing you want folks to remember about EMS in the Philadelphia Fire Department?
One thing? One thing that I want people to remember about EMS in the fire department, it's an honor to serve the citizens. We take everyone's emergency serious, and it's a very rewarding job and very rewarding career. I love it. I wouldn't, if I could do it, I would do it for free. I love this job.
Well, that was a great one thing. And in honor of Mother's Day and your recent graduation, Advanced EMT, Cruz Soto, one thing you want folks to remember about EMS in the Philadelphia Fire Department?
We are always there for you, no matter what time, what day, anything. We're right at your door when you call. So never be discouraged, and just always know that we have your back all the time. 365, 24/7.
I couldn't say it better myself. Thanks to our great guests. Thanks to all of our listeners. Thanks to Diane for calling in. We look forward to having everybody join us for the June edition of Let's Talk Safety. To our providers, happy EMS week. And, thank you all. Stay safe. And remember that fire is everyone's fight. Take care, and we'll see you in June. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.